Amari Jasz, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I have a London-based burlesque costume designer, Dionne Fearon here. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on those post notifications, and stay back to the beginning. What inspired you to become a costume designer, and how did you break into the burlesque space specifically?
For me, I mostly was doing art in school. So I started doing a GCSE in art and then very much going on to do a foundation in art. That's how you start in university most of the time at UAL. And that's University of Arts London. And I did my foundation degree at London College of Communication. That's not there anymore. That's in Camberwell, only in Camberwell and Central St. Martin's out of the whole entire university now. Mostly, then I went on to do an FDA in graphic design. What happened in graphic design was I wasn't I liked drawing, but I think I didn't really like the graphic component of it. It's a little bit too rigid for me in terms of like there's a certain level of guidelines you have to kind of follow to make sure the client's happy, and it's not for me it wasn't that creative. But I ended up watching a ballet performance, Jules, at the Royal Opera House, and like it made me realize that I kind of like touching stuff. I like the textile kind of feel of making my stuff. Probably why I like doing pottery back in like doing when I did A levels and stuff like that. And for the most part, took a year out, kind of just like trying to kind of find a job, but like not my heart wasn't really into graphics. I think most of it was mainly due to the fact that I liked touching stuff. I like the textile making of stuff, and so I reapplied to UAL under do Wimbledon, and so doing costume. What mainly inspired me from FDA was like I did a dissertation on other stuff like burlesque and Tazaraka review, and like those larger than life costumes really inspired me. And so like I was molding it for a year, then reapplied to do a BA in costume theatre in Sweden. And over that time I was learning sewing and pattern cutting and like managing your time really, because sewing is quite labor intensive, and it's like you have to not only think about it, you have to think about how you're going to photograph the thing as well by the end of my college experience. But what really inspired me was my main inspirations have been like Bob Mackie, that kind of very over the top theatrical kind of thing, like Greg Barnes and stuff like that. So, and like other fashion designers such as Thierry Mugler, like kind of the over theatricality of costume and the transformation aspect of it. If you really want to like see a fashion show that's quite theatrical, I would suggest looking up like Thierry Mugler's like 1995 or 1997 collections. Like it went on for an hour. We can't do that nowadays because like time limits and going through the whole it'll be too exhausting for like people having to go around Fashion Week trying to do that. But the thing that mainly inspired me was seeing a red costume for that was done by Menage a Trois. It's called Madame X costume, and it was for a burlesque performer called I am just trying to remember her name at the top of my tongue. She did it for, it's just this bright red costume. Like everything about it was so, like it was intensely bright red, but the construction of it was it was for a performer called Roxy Delight in America. And she's a Canadian costume designer. And she made the most, like that specific costume that I saw was kind of insane to look at. It was kind of like this big structured skirt, the see-through like under stress, like the pasties. I like everything was perfectly themed and well done, because like it's collapsible. You can fit in a suitcase. It was just so good. So I went down an absolute rabbit hole during that my final year, looking at other people who've done burlesque costumes, like Eote specifically. He was a Russian designer that came into France, and he did these very burlesque, over the top for the actual costume designs and stuff as well. A lot of burlesque performers take inspiration from him in terms of like actually making either the feather fans, the actual outfit. Like, he's one of the people that tend to inspire a lot of them. And also, like, looking at Dita Von Teese's costume, her costumes are like absolutely the same. Like, not only just the costumes, but the set and everything. There was a powder puff costume that, like, her skirt was made up with like this marabou feathers skirt that made it look like a powerful, and she came out of compact. Her assistants looked like as lipstick and mascara bottle. It was kind of like that type of over the top theming. Like, how clever can you make the costume was something that I also thought. Also, like, how you got out of the costume was the most interesting for me, because like there's people who have, it makes you wonder, how do you get out of a costume? How clever can you make it, basically? Is it like stripping it out just one time at a time, just slowly opening the front bust of a corset, or is it one all in one go? And we'll get to that. But after graduating from my BA, I kind of was trying to look for work. I kind of struggled with it because in comparison to everybody else, I think I didn't have as many contacts as well, or know where to look in terms of like the starting point. And for theatre, it's more like you have to think about dresser positions and runner positions, and those are the very small roles in film and theatre where you actually do much more menial work. You may do a small sewing lesson, maybe getting the tea or coffee for the rest of the set, stuff like that. And I was thinking, I ended up making like a wedding dress for my cousin over like the year, just to see, like, just to keep my sewing skills and scope, because like I wasn't really getting any work or anything like that, and I was struggling to look for it. And like, it really put me through my paces just to think about a lot of stuff, such as how, and she was in America, so like how you do it over a Zoom call, how you do the measurements, how you get them to measure themselves if they have another person, how you communicate like photographing fabrics and stuff. And like, granted, in the end, it was kind of like she couldn't really wear it because tea ended up being spilled over in the end, but when we were traveling with the dress. It's like, I was like, I spent so many months on it, but like but it did teach me a lot in terms of how to manage one-to-one stuff. And I was thinking, it's like, you know what, I think I would be better off just doing my own business, and or like doing my solo work, trying to get work that way, because it's when you start in like a very small, lower position runner, you're not doing all the sewing work at first. You're not really in the wardrobe department unless you get promoted into that, or you're straight into that. You kind of work your way up there. And I kind of enjoy the tactile sense of actually sewing the clothes, figuring out the problems from there and learning from that, because I feel like I learned more trying to do that, and more with contacting, being sensitive with the clients and stuff like that, and like being aware of fit, being aware of what looks good basically at a distance, and like materials. Like for my wedding, the wedding dress I made for my cousin, I if I was to do that again, I would have done it in a lighter satin or a lighter silk, just to make it not look too shiny or too heavy. But granted, it was like a spring wedding, so you didn't want it to be cold, because it's like, it's still a little bit chilly in the April still. So there's that.
What's your first like burlesque project, and how did it come together?
Well, the first burlesque project was kind of like a bit of random coincidence. So I put out like a post of like my pricing scheme of like how I was going to price it, and then a burlesque performer called Ruby Desire kind of contacted me through the DMs, and she wanted some tearaway knickers that were leopard print, and so I had to negotiate the price. I ended up doing it too high initially, but then I lowered it properly to a reasonable price for her. I gave her, we went back and forth with sketches, and like we landed on, it was initially about to be like a G-string and a knickers pair, but we got down to the knickers pair because it would be kind of a little bit too expensive for her. And for that I was using both my knowledge and looking at Menage a Trois, like different like pull releases and stuff like that, and it came together. And what I used was like velvet, basically stretch velvet and red satin. The reason why I used red satin and then made the print on top of it, like I've actually applied the print on top of the knickers itself, was because I found the fabric that often had the red leopard print were either mixed in with yellow or didn't look quite right. It looked a bit dull, personally. So I decided to use the spare black leather with the spare black velvet, I should say, with the red satin. It made it more cohesive to look at, to be frankly honest, and stuff like that. And we couldn't really do the measurement because we had to do, she was in a slightly just outside of London, so I roughly took the size of the 10, and she said in size, and then I took roughly measured. It's quite hard to find lingerie measurements, to be frank. And it's kind of a little bit all over the place in terms of where you need to kind of technically look because some of them are European sizes, and some people, and not only that, knicker sizes kind of a little bit very depending on brand to brand and how they measure it. So you could be like an 8 in one, 10 in another. So I had to kind of try and find the right one that would kind of cover it and stuff like that. And also I did a draft and mock up basically, or toile I should say, of it first to see how it looked. I made it bigger so you can cut away of it, make it look a lot better and make it fit a lot better onto the mannequin. Luckily I have like a mannequin that's technically a size 10, luckily, so I can fit it onto it and pin and see how it looks. So I did a mix of calico and some velvet, because one thing you have to think about is that you can't do everything in calico because certain fabrics have a different way of working. So with velvet, stretch velvet in particular, it will stretch all over the place. You have to kind of accommodate for that. And if you're carrying it on the straight, well, you have to, like, it's got to stretch over time. If you're putting it with a woven fabric like calico or satin, you've got to see how it works, because it's like it may not be as tight as you think. So I tested it out, all the fabric. You have to also make sure you have slight boning at the channels on the side of the pull release to make sure it's stiff, particularly with soft fabric. It's not stiff enough to really hold by itself and be stable. It will just collapse in on itself too much. And so that's how to make it stabilize, and then use cord I should say, and then pull it as the pull cord, so it doesn't fray. You can actually melt the ends of it because it's acrylic, it's polyester, and so you can cut it to size and easy pull off with key rings, and then it's easy to come off.
You feel like were your biggest challenges you faced starting out in the London, fashion, costume / burlesque scene?
I think it's connections, to be honest. It's like, my family's background isn't in the arts, so you don't technically, when you don't have that kind of background, it can become a disadvantage of who do you know to contact, who do you know for venues, is this worth pursuing? I got very lucky in the sense of in terms of selling. When I officially started trying to do my costume business somewhere in 2022, before I got any proper clients, I went to a burlesque competition, and that was because my brother referred me to a photographer that does these events throughout the year for beginner burlesque performance, and it's called Infinities, and that's how I got my introduction in terms of like knowing the burlesque scene and seeing actual burlesque performers and starting to follow them and stuff. With the theatre industry, it's very connection based. They won't, there's a lot of people who won't trust you unless they kind of know you, because you're kind of handling clothing basically. It's kind of like, if you don't have the connections, you're not going to go very far. And it can be quite frustrating if you're coming from a very raw background. It can be quite a shock. Like, I had a bit of a shock. You're going to be waiting a while for jobs. And also, if you start doing this solo and doing it commission based, it may take you some time before you even get a client. It's all about marketing yourself. You have to go to network with these people. You have to go to these burlesque festivals. Have to go to these burlesque clubs where they commonly go to, like the Cortesian, to mingle with other people, to be able to say, hey, I exist. And I think because it's kind of like, in comparison to the USA, Burlesque did start in this country. It did start in London, in the sense of it was more comical based, but like a lot of it in other countries, it's a little bit more developed in terms of the circuit. London's a little bit more, there's more smaller areas, your pockets. It's together, it's there, but it's more in smaller pockets. So you have to start going to adjacent shows, and so such as circus performances, gothic performances. There's a lot of crossover with them in terms of burlesque, and also fetish conventions as well, because a lot of burlesque performers either get hired to go there to like perform, or there's a lot of people who have the skills that kind of cross over with that to make them more wider in terms of like who hires them for corporate events and such.
What do you feel like is the biggest difference between like burlesque versus just like regular ready-to-wear fashion?
Burlesque is very specific to the person and their act. You have to really talk to them. Like, you've got a lot of people who are different sizes, different genders, and going on in there. And when you're making a costume for a burlesque performer, it's very much bespoke. It's very much built for what their size is, who they are. Not only that, you also have to consider their act, and what they're asking of you. Does it have lighting? Do they want lighting in there? Is it fire? So you have to think about fireproof fabrics and such, or you have to make sure it's very minimal clothing if you have a fire act. And if you're doing fire acts on your skin, you have to think about, can they take that off really easily so they don't have to wear it. Also, if they're doing aerial acts, is it light enough to do it? Not only that, it's also the theming as well. You've got to think about, what theme are they going for? Are they going for gothic? Are they going for very classic burlesque with the corset or the dress? Are they very dancer focused, so they prefer much more moving fabric, so organza, much more flowing fabric and movement? Do they have specific skills such as sword swallowing, tap dancing? You need to make sure the skirt is not dragging on the floor. Also, if they've got a big prop as well, you've got to think about that. Like, you've got waterproof clothing or easier washable clothing if somebody's using blood for their act. I've seen quite a few people, like Polyantha. She's a burlesque performer, but she does very bloody acts, and she vampire focused acts, and one of her acts I think has a lot of blood in it. So yeah, and there's also a little bit more being more aware of what other people's acts are. You can't copyright an outfit, you can't really do that, but you have to be aware, like, you're not like doing a blatant straight up copy, otherwise people get very antsy about it.
What do you feel like are some elements of burlesque that really make it like iconic and like captivating for like you as a designer, and then like for the audience?
I think it's the reveals, to be honest. It's like how really kind of can captivate. If you can get the gimmick down and make it clean and really practice, it can be really captivating. Also, what is how the performer uses their costume. Are they going to just pull the fingers off very slowly? Is there a reveal under the glove? Is there is the costume adding to how the performer acts? If they're a vampire, they're actually creeping. If they're more floaty and angel like, how are they going to move basically? And the movement and the reveals are really what kind of bring.
Want more exclusive content and special perks? Join my Patreon today and become part of an even closer community. For just $4.99, my bronze members get a special Bronze Kiss badge, 2 live videos a week, early access to my new videos, and exclusive discounts on my merch. That's 65% off. Upgrade to silver for $9.99 and get member shoutouts, 4 exclusive videos every month, custom wallpapers, and exclusive GIFs and emojis to use in your live streams. Gold members, you get a custom emojis to use during videos and streams, plus a free birthday gift. Show off that Gold Kiss badge and style. Feeling extra? Go platinum for $19.99 and be subscriber of the month with shoutouts, a video of your choice posted, and a free gift with every new launch of merch. So what are you waiting for? Pick your level and join my Patreon today for exclusive perks and all the behind the scenes fun. Can't wait to see you there.